stressful is when Streamlabs program can't stand the stress, whatever stress it's under, and decides to go ahead and crash on me. So, let's get back to it. Welcome everybody back to the stream. The Streamlabs seems to have wanted to. Streamlabs seems like it wanted to go ahead and crash on me, and then crash the stream right afterwards. So that's just gonna screw everything up for me. But I'm not gonna let it. I'm not gonna let it get the best of me, because we're still doing this. All right. So like I said, so everything else before that we talked about stress and a wrap up, so I can get right into it. Here it is, chapter 18. We're gonna get it right into this read through, and we have the three visitors is the title of this. So again, before I start into this, BibleGateway.com. I think it's the best biblical research that you have at your fingertips. It's free. It's got plenty of translations. It's easy to use. It's better than any app that I've found. So do it. Use it. It's very helpful, and that's what I use here because it's easy, because it's got lots of resources, so you can read these things as we go down. Three visitors, chapter 18. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abraham looked up and saw three men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. And he seems to know because this is God, because he said, "If I had found favor in your eyes, my Lord, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat so you can be refreshed, and then go on your way, now that you have come to your servant." Very well, they answered, "Do as you say." So, interesting point here. We have three men standing nearby, or three men appear to Abraham, and Abraham seems to know at once that it's God, because he says, "My Lord," and he refers to himself as his servant. So we have three men. So why is God appearing as three men? Well, I mean, seems to me it sounds a lot like a Trinity reference here. So we've got Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Okay. Seems logical. Either way, first thing that Abraham does is, makes like he's Bilbo Baggins when Gandalf shows up, rolls out the red carpet for him, and says, "What can I do for you? Here, let me get some water. Let's get some food and refreshments, and then send you on your way." And God said, "Fine." It's great. He likes God. We've already learned that God loves the smell of barbecue. So he is probably happy to see that Abraham is honoring him. So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah. "Quick," he said, "get 3 seahs or says, or whatever that's pronounced. Apparently, it's a unit of weight. Those 3 says of the finest flour, and knead it and bake some bread." Then he ran to the herd and selected a choice tender calf and gave it to a servant who hurried to prepare it. He then brought some curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared and set these before them. And while they ate, he stood near them under a tree. So, hey, Abraham's a good host when God shows up. All three of them. He goes out, and this, mind you, he goes out and does this. Most of the stuff either he or Sarah's doing, he does get a servant involved, but you need to notice that Abraham's doing most of this work himself, and Sarah is doing some of the work to help. So the heads of the household of the Abraham, business, are doing this work. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "There, in the tent," he said. Then one of them said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, am I not worn out? Or am I worn out and my Lord is... I'm sorry. I'm not reading this appropriately. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, after I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure? And then the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh and say, will I really have a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. And Sarah was afraid. So she lied and said, I did not laugh. But he said, yes, you did laugh. I'm sure Sarah's a great person. She seems to be in many cases. But Sarah has some moments where you got to figure she's blonde. You know, after the Hagar thing, she goes over and blames Abraham. She lets Abraham go around with this cockamamie scheme early in the here, where he says that she should pose as his sister. And then here she's laughing, which I can understand a little bit of incredulity, because even when you say through God all things are possible, sometimes it's difficult to remember all things are possible. So she chuckles, right, or laughs, or does something, and God's sitting around and he's just made this proclamation. So he looks and he goes, "Why is she laughing? Why does she think this is funny? She think I can't do it?" And that she got a little scared. And she goes, "I didn't laugh. God didn't know. God didn't hear you laugh. God didn't already know you were gonna laugh." So he slipped reminds her, "Yes, you did laugh." Which is fine. Be like, you could always just said, "Yes, sorry, I let my human, shortcomings get the better of me. I didn't mean to laugh." Or at the same time, be like, "Yes, I laughed. It seemed just so incredible that I can't wrap my head around it." He doesn't punish her though. Here, but now, so he's made the proclamation. So Abraham and Sarah are going to have a son. So hey, Sarah's going to be on equal footing then, or more of an equal footing, child-wise, as Hagar, and that'll really help Abraham and Sarah's marriage and family come full circle, because they'll finally have a son, so that he can have many descendants, as God has promised. I don't know what Sarah was thinking was going to come out of that when God said, "Hey, you're going to have many descendants." I guess she assumed that it was going to come from Hagar's line, which might have been part of the reason she was upset. Abraham gets this long line, but Sarah gets kind of left out about it. Never fear, Sarah. Your kid is on the way. Abraham pleads for Sodom. This is where the story starts to get very real. When the men got up to leave, they looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham about what I am about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him, so that he will direct his children and his household after him, to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him." And then the Lord said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so grievous, that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know." The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing. Kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right?" And the Lord said, "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." I'm going to pause right here, because this is me reading it. At the beginning, he said, the Lord appears before Abraham, and he sees 3 men. But now down here, it sounds like there was the Lord and 3 men. So I'm not really confused. I'm really kind of confused of what's going on at this point, as far as the presence. But again, whether it's the Lord appearing as 3 people, or the Lord and 3 people, which may be angels, might just be, he's got a little, he's got some folks hanging around him. He's got his entourage of these, random dudes. But anyway, God appears to Abraham. Abraham throws him this, this feast of choice, the best bread, the best meat. And then after they're done eating, he starts talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, we've listened to Sodom and Gomorrah in the past. They have, God knows that they're being wicked. Of course, he's God, he knows. But it's made known that God has got his eye turned towards them in some way, because they have been, dallying in these great sins, which they don't really name to this point. But it was so bad that they wanted to give Abraham some tribute or some reward for helping them out and returning some of their goods. And Abraham said, I don't want anything from you guys. Don't want anything of that at all. And not only that, right after he does that in the Bible, the next chapter talks about God renewing his talking, approaching Abraham again about establishing a covenant with him. So, so God talks about it now, that he really is like, look, Sodom and Gomorrah, they got to go. They are bad places. And so, I might get rid of them. And then Abraham kind of stops him and says, hey, wait a minute, you can't just destroy the city. What if they're good people in the city? What are the righteous people in the city? Maybe it's not just full of bad people. And he said, would you really do it? Would you really do it if there's 50 good people there? Would you do it? And then, the Lord said, hey, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I'll spare the whole place for their sake. So if I find 50 good men, 50 good people there who are worth saving, I will spare the entire city. Okay. So now that we pick up from here. Then Abraham spoke up again. And now that I've been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city for a lack of 5 people? If I find 45 there, he said, I will not destroy it. Once again he spoke to him, what if only 40 are found there? He said, for the sake of 40, I will not do it. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there? He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. Abraham said, now that I've been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there? He said, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there? And he answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home. So Abraham's a descendant of Shem, and Shem is from what the Bible starts as the Semitic tribe, and from Abraham comes both Abraham's sons, Isaac and Ishmael, become the predecessors for the Hebrews and become the Jews, and then through Ishmael's line, Islam is formed. And I find it incredibly funny. Of course, it could also be from the region he lives in, but we see some haggling. And in the Middle East, Middle Eastern culture is very big on haggling. There's a lot of haggling. So we see this here. We see haggling going on here, and I find it hilarious because Abraham brings up a good point. Why would you destroy the city if there's good people in it? And so he pulls out this number 50. And so God goes, okay, if you find 50. And then Abraham's like, because he seems like Abraham's pretty aware of Sodom. And so he says, Yeah, I mean, maybe I can't find 50 good men there. Maybe I can, what if I try and I almost get to that? Maybe so. What if I only get 45? So he brings up 45, and then he's like, man, I don't even know if there's even 45 there. So he keeps moving that goalpost, keeps dropping that number down, and then he gets to 10. I've been interested if Abraham said, if I could just find one guy, will you spare it? And God would probably say, just pull that one guy out of the city. They left it at 10. He left it at 10, and so we go from there. Uh-oh, chapter 19, Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. Guess how many men God didn't find that were righteous? Spoiler alert, not enough. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening. They're coming from God, so this is God's scouts out there. Not that God isn't already aware, but the angels show up. They're doing their due diligence because to show Abraham that God is doing this. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. So remember, Lot is Abraham's nephew, and he's spending time in the area around Sodom. He got caught up being around that down there because that's the area that he decided he was going to settle because it was very nice there. The area just outside of Sodom, very nice. It was good for his flocks. It was just it's described as a very nice place, and but very nice place, but the neighbors aren't that great. But two angels show up, and he says, "Hey, why don't you just not go into the city? Why don't you come to my place and hang out there?" And they said, "Nope, no, we're gonna stay. We're gonna spend the night in the square. So we're gonna be right in downtown Sodom." So Lot says, but he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them." That's an interesting way to greet somebody. Not just that. You're not just sending a couple people to do this, but you're sending the entire cities, all the men from all the city come out and they make this request. And I'm assuming that they're not talking about consensual here. This is where the term sodomy is going to originate from. Get that out of the way. Where the term sodomy is going to originate from, and if you're not aware, this act is a sin before the eyes of God. Now there is some argument more recently. This didn't used to be a point of contention. This used to be universally accepted, that homosexuality activity is sinful. But this here is a pretty good point. At the very least, raping is definitely bad. But God's talking about a city that's full of sin, and when you show up as an outsider, and then the entire city comes seeks you out, and then says that they want to rape you, you can see why this city's not the best company. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, "No, my friends, do not do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." Strong pause here for Lot. I get, I want to get where this is not how I would have put this. Obviously, These are angels of the Lord. They're messengers from God. There is an importance. There is a heavy weight to them, to how sacred they are. And Lot is basically saying, hey, instead of that, instead of defiling these holy beings, here are my two virgin daughters. Have them instead. I guess Lot could have actually said, hey, just take me instead. But he throws his daughters out. He's throwing his daughters out there as something to sway them and to keep them from doing this thing. Lot's not showing a whole lot of faith here either. I don't know if this is Lot trying to honor God or not, but he's not showing a lot of faith in here that the angels can take care of themselves, because guess what? They can, because they're going to take care of themselves. They're going to take care of this entire city in a minute. Get out of our way, they replied. This is the crowd. Get out of our way, they replied. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. And they kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so they could not find the door. The two men said to Lot, do you have anyone else here, sons-in-laws, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. Are his sons-in-laws in this crowd? So, we've already got the answer to our question. If every single man in the entire city came out to rape these two angels of the Lord, so we know that we didn't get... we know that we didn't find 10 men, because even if the sons-in-laws are righteous, only that is 2 daughters, so that means it's 2 men. So we found 2 righteous men at best, including Lot. So we could say 3 at best, not 10. And they're kind of doing what I'm saying. Hey, grab the folks that are loyal to you and get the heck out of here, because this place, we're about to lay waste to this place. But Lot goes out and talks to his sons-in-law, who I'm assuming, because Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law. So it's like, are they out in the crowd? Maybe they saw Lot just say, hey, these are my 2 virgin daughters, and they're like, but sons-in-law don't take him seriously for whatever reason. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you'll be swept away when the city is punished. When he hesitated, the men grasped his hands and the hands of his wife and his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city. For the Lord was merciful to them. And as soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, flee for your lives. Don't look back, and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away. But the Lord said to them, no, my lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. He said to him, very well. I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why the town was called Zoar. Answer our question earlier, a couple of episodes ago. The sons-in-laws don't take him seriously, so they're not going to be saved in this matter. Lot's getting out, his wife's getting out, his daughters are getting out. Doesn't say anything about his son, so I guess Lot doesn't have any sons at this point. But hey, he's getting out, and the women who are probably pissed at him for offering them up to them, probably a little bit irritated with him, and his wife's probably mad at him too for that reason. Or at least a little bit resentful. They're like, hey, why are we all of a sudden in here? They're being told, hey, get out of here. We're going to play. We love you. You're good people. We want you to get out. We don't want you to get caught up in this mess, so get out now. And then Lot hesitates. He can't. He's for some reason, stuck to where he's at. Either he's dumbfounded or just in shock over all of what's going on. And so angels grab him and then just take him outside of the city and basically said, "Run, get out of here, don't look back." Very important what they said. Don't look back. And Lot says, "Hey, instead of sending me into the wilderness, let me go to this town." They said, "You can go to the town. Don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back." By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities, and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. So, she looked back. Not supposed to look back. I think that's Pat Conroy wrote a great book called The Lords of Discipline, and he uses the story, the end of the story, as as a as a moral that you just when there are bad things going on, you can't look back. You can't look back. She looked back. He used her as a Lot's wife looked back, and she created that. She made that mistake of trying to look back on where you were leaving because you were leaving there because it was so bad. That one always stuck with me. That's why the story with Lot's wife always sticks with me. She became a pillar of salt. And no, that doesn't mean she was really salty about the loss of this city. No, she became what sounds like a literal mound of salt. And they do that in the movie Sodom and Gomorrah, which does not follow the Bible very much at all in that case. But she becomes a pillar of salt. The next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Go back real quick to Lot's wife. She was told specifically not to do something. She did it anyway, for whatever reason. And the punishment was very swift, very severe. And that happens, especially in the Old Testament. You do what when God's angels, when God tells you something specifically, you got to do it. Not doing it usually results in severe consequences. In this case, it's becoming a pillar of salt. In some cases, a giant sea monster will eat you. In other cases, you'll find out. So, but God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. They were very sinful places, doing sinful things. It seems like a lot of pleasures of the flesh. It seems like, everybody there was wicked, including the sons-in-law, which is good for his daughters because now they don't have to be married to wicked men and share them apparently with other men. Lot and his two daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains. So he just asked specifically not to go to the mountains, and then he ends up in the mountains. Maybe his wife didn't like the mountains, and that was why he asked. And now she's not around, he can go live in the mountains. Lot and his two daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar, and he and his two daughters lived in a cave. One day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father." No, don't do this. This is bad. This is a bad idea, right? They're up. Stereotype time, because it's okay to make these jokes, right? Stereotype, they're up in the mountains. Associated Mountains with West Virginia, other places. Now they want to get him drunk and sleep with their dad. Do not do this. Bad. Do not do this. It's illegal. It's illegal. It's not just illegal now, it's illegal then. God doesn't like this. That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight so you can go in and sleep with him so that we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down and when she got up. Don't drink this much. We've learned this before. When Noah was passed out, and now Lot has drank so much wine that he is literally passed out and like blackout drunk. He does not know what's going on. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son and named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. And maybe Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. I guess being in Sodom did corrupt them in some way, and this is a good thing to think of. This is a good moral here, or a good lesson here, that exposing yourself too much to being around, just exposing yourself to evil and wickedness can sometimes cause you to become wicked yourself. This is a pretty big deal, because this is Lot is part of Abraham's family, and so the assumption there is that he is going to become blessed as well. But the Moabites and the Ammonites, they're not people that keep God in their heart, and it comes back to bite them. And part of that, I think, was the origin of these folks is through significant incest, and can't approve of that. Can't approve of that at all. But that'll wrap it up today. So we got a lot of wickedness going on tonight, and so wish I had something. Wish I could end this on a better note, but people do bad things in the Bible. This is again why I always say the Bible is a redemption story. You can't have redemption unless you make mistakes, and there's redemption all throughout here. Some people don't get the redemption that we want, but usually that's because they're not looking for it. Almost everybody in here who is seeking redemption finds it in some way or form. But most of the people who meet bad ends, it's either because it's too fast for them to realize that they'd made a mistake, or that they'd given up on God in their own hearts, and they've just given into wickedness. That's a difficult thing, is when you let your sin overtake you to the point where you lose your faith, or when you lose your love in God, or you lose your loyalty to God, or you lose your ability to listen to God. That is why God hates sin. He hates sin because of what it does to people, and all you have to do is look at what it does to a person's character, what it does to their personality, what it does to just their life trajectory. Wickedness, it's not a good thing. It is wicked, and I mean it's very apparent. It's very apparent why, if you look at it in your day-to-day life, and I think that if we were in God's position, we would feel the same way. And I think in many ways we do feel that the same way. You feel it in your conscience, you feel it in your soul when you're the one doing it, or when you see other people doing it. You become a little aware of it, and I think you have to sometimes make a conscious effort to put it in the back of your head or ignore it, because I think it's always, when it's something like that's going on, I think it's always eating at you at least somewhere, even if it's in the back of your head. Don't let it do that. Don't let that do it. Don't become the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. Don't let yourself become so consumed so consumed with wickedness that God can't find 1 ounce of righteousness in you. Um, but understand that you are allowed flaws. I think this is kind of me coming to a new kind of just kind of a because I'm talking this out. This is me coming to kind of a new understanding of what happens to Sodom and Gomorrah when he's talking about if I can find 10 righteous people. Um, God's looking for an excuse to save us as a people, but also on the individual level. And that means, you know, you might have something deep and that's significantly wrong with your life, um, that's self-inflicted. You're struggling with addiction, or you're having difficulty. You're having difficulty just finding faith in yourself, faith in God. You don't know how to treat the people you love or love correctly. You're in a funk. You're depressed. You're upset about your own shortcomings or the things that are going on around you. God sees that in you, but he's looking for the part of you that finds joy out of things, that finds love, that is righteous, that is wholesome and good. Work on that, build on that, because you are a city worth saving. But you've got to keep yourself grounded at least enough that there's some good left in you. There's some good left in you, and I think that's true for everyone. Um, and I think we do have the luxury as Christians today that Jesus came and made the sacrifice that he did for our sins. Um, let's not take that for granted. Let's take that seriously. Let's build on the wholesomeness and goodness that's in our hearts. You guys have a good evening. I'm not going to stream tomorrow night. It's Sunday night, but I will try to do it on Monday.